following contains mature content. You've been warned.
From Wondery, I'm Mark Ramsey, and this is part 6 of Inside Jaws. July 30, 1945. The sea stretched in all directions as far as the eye could see. It was daylight now, but there were no ships, no planes, no help. No time for distress signals, but eventually they would be missed. Eventually. 900 men in the water, many bleeding and vomiting. Many with broken limbs or fractured backs or skulls. Captain McVeigh, sir, how long can these boys survive out here without food or water? Without food? Maybe 30 days. Without water? Maybe a week. But that's for healthy men. Many of these boys. The day wore on, scanning the seas and the skies for help in vain. Dusk came. 900 men floating, clinging to bits and pieces of debris, lying in rafts, bobbing in life vests. That's when the bumping began. Bumping from below. Nudges. Tiny kicks. Why'd you nudge me? I didn't nudge you. Did you just kick me? I didn't touch you. Something was testing them. Prodding them. Something beneath the water. Something hungry. Inside Jaws is pleased to have Audible as its presenting sponsor. The best books you've ever heard of are the best books you can hear, and they're all on Audible. That's why we worked with our friends at Audible to create a summer hearing list. This week, we're recommending Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Book 1, by J.K. Rowling. When it comes to an amazing book, hearing is believing. If you haven't tried Audible yet, now's the time. Go to audible.com/JAWS or text JAWS to 500-500 to get started. Amazon Prime members can get Audible for just $4.95 a month for the first 3 months. That's like getting 3 months for the price of one. After that, it's only $14.95 a month. This offer ends July 31st, 2018. That's audible.com/JAWS. audible.com/JAWS or text JAWS to 500-500. July 31, 1945. It was around dawn. To the east, the colors of the morning lit up the sky. Around the men, the skies were empty, the ocean endless. A man floating in his life vest, bobbing with the sea. Moments later, a life vest floats to the surface, shrouded in blood. One sailor startled awake. He turned to the man at his side, his poker buddy, his friend, his fellow sailor. He nudged him. No response. He pushed him. His friend's body tipped on its side and upside down, floating away. He had been eaten in half right up to his life vest. The men had company, fins, skimming through the water everywhere. Makos and tigers and blues and white tips, hundreds of them, circling. They had been circling all night. And now, at dawn, it was time to reap their reward. screams were blood-curdling, and they went on and on and on for hours. The men, they clamped their hands over their ears to stop the sound of their friends being torn to shreds and pulled down, down, down into the deep. Those who survived looked into the eyes of the sharks, lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. As suddenly as it began, it stopped. The ghastly monsters vanished into the deep. For now. In their wake, a sea of blood. The men were choking on it. And in that sea, shredded clothes and drowning men, their arms and legs ripped apart. Those still alive were barely so. Some drank the salt water. Their tongues swelled. Their throats closed. They foamed at the nose. They were going mad.
Boys?
That's Captain McVeigh shouting to those men who could still hear his voice.
We are going to be rescued!
In the twilight, beyond the tears and groans of 600 men dead or dying, alone in a vast ocean, alone against an empty sky, we are going to be rescued, he said. August 2nd, 1945. 4 days lost at sea. Finally, a plane overhead. Looking down, hundreds of men in the water, floating on debris, on rafts, on nets, in vests, scattered across the ocean. And in their midst, hundreds of sharks. This was dire. The plane was built for water landings, but not on the open sea. Mistakes on the ocean could blow the plane apart. It didn't matter. They were going to land the plane in the water.
Prepare for landing. Hold on.
Hundreds to save, room for only 30. And so, they risked their lives. One by one, they rescued those they could. More help was on the way. "You're safe, buddy. You're going home." He helped the sailor into the plane. The man's lips were swollen. He was barely conscious. Jammed under his belt and against his body was a book. Rotted by seawater, the title was still visible. Call It Courage by Armstrong Sperry. About a young man afraid of the sea who overcomes the ocean's deadly obstacles. He summons the courage to face his fears, and he returns home a hero. June 12, 1974. Interior, pilot house, night. It's the most indelible scene in Jaws, and it's one of the simplest. Brody, Hooper, and Quint drink, joke, and compare scars in the belly of the orca, alone at sea. That's when Quint reveals himself. He explains his hatred for sharks. He recounts the story of the USS Indianapolis, the Navy vessel on which he had served. It's the most chilling scene in the movie. And there's no shark, no jump scare, no visual effects, just the finest performance you'll ever see. Credit for the speech, all 2.5 pages of it, belongs to numerous contributors, including the director, but the real author of the speech was Robert Shaw. I've been working on that troublesome speech. What do you think of this? The speech was filmed numerous times. Sometimes Shaw was stone cold sober. Sometimes he could barely stand. What you see in the movie is a combination of both. It didn't matter. He was always thoroughly gripping.
And here we go. Rolling sound, play it.
It was perfect. And Spielberg, the cast, and the crew knew it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Great work today. Great job.
1,196 crew members were aboard the USS Indianapolis. 317 survived. Of the 900 dead, 200 were killed by sharks, 50 men a day. During the feeding frenzy, one man was lost every 10 minutes. It was the greatest loss of life at sea from a single ship in U.S. Navy history. This single ship that delivered the bomb that ended World War II. It's another hair-pulling, nerve-rattling, agita-inducing day of shooting on the ocean for Jaws.
The shark is working.
Did we even hear that right? The cast: Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, and Roy Scheider, a stunt coordinator, and one 70-year-old sound man were on the Orca, ready for action.
The shark is working, but the boat is sinking.
What?
Repeat, the boat is sinking.
The anchor had unexpectedly cut loose and the Orca began to sink. The stunt coordinator rushed to the wheel, aiming the boat at nearby Chappaquiddick Island. Meanwhile, the Orca was taking on water. Robert Shaw was ready to go down with his ship, but he was going to go down looking good all the way. He straightened his cap, buttoned his shirt, and stood solemnly at the bow of the boat like a regal wooden figurehead on a sailing vessel. This is the part where Steven Spielberg's life flashes before his eyes. His ship was going down and taking his cast with it.
Get the actors off the boat. Get the actors off the boat.
Steven, I'm trying to help the sound man off the boat. That's Richard Dreyfuss.
Get the actors off the boat.
Steven, he's 70 years old.
Fuck it. Get the actors off the boat.
The scenes on the ocean were a nightmare, so Spielberg shot whatever he could on land first. Sound, set, camera, set, roll sound. Sound rolling, roll camera. Camera speed, marker, scene 27, take 3. Action. A grieving mother, dressed in black, approaches Chief Brody. Her son had just been murdered by a shark. The beaches had remained open despite a previous death, and the police chief knew it. Chief Brody? Yes? Let's do it again, Lee. The actress Lee Fierro had a hard time getting the slap just right. It was a slap that would make her famous. In 2012, 37 years after the debut of Jaws, Fierro was still living on Martha's Vineyard, and people still approached her asking for a good slap. "I do it to please the fans," she said. Inside Jaws is brought to you in part by Casper. I've been on my Casper mattress now for more than a month, and I have never looked forward to climbing into the bed at night more than I do right now. It's firm, but it's got some give, just like the perfect relationship. If you've been thinking about getting a new mattress, you should really consider a Casper. It's got a breathable design that helps keep you cool all night long. It uses supportive memory foams that mimic human curves, providing revolutionary comfort for all kinds of bodies. And it's affordable because Casper cuts out the middleman and sells directly to you. And Casper is not just a mattress company. No, they also offer a wide variety of other products like pillows and sheets to ensure an overall better sleep experience. Still not convinced? You can be sure of your purchase with Casper's 100-night risk-free Sleep On It trial. There's also free shipping and hassle-free returns in the U.S. and Canada if you are not completely satisfied. You can get $50 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/jaws and using promo code JAWS at checkout. That's casper.com/jaws, Promo code JAWS. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, first things first. Everybody likes to look good, right? But sometimes, admit it, you get overwhelmed with all the grooming products at the store, right? I know, I get it. There's a lot out there. But it doesn't have to be that complicated. I'm telling you, all you have to do is check out Dollar Shave Club. Yes, that Dollar Shave Club. They're more than just razors. They deliver everything you need to look, feel, and smell your best. You name it. Shampoo, conditioner, body wash, toothpaste, hair gel. I love their mint cedarwood body cleanser. It smells so crisp and clean. I look forward to using it every day. Here's a great way to try a bunch of Dollar Shave Club's products. For just $5, you can get their Daily Essential Starter Set. It comes with body cleanser, One Wipe Charlie's, their world-famous shave butter, and their best razor, the 6-Blade Executive. Keep the blades coming for a few more bucks a month and add in shampoo, toothpaste, anything else you need for the bathroom. Check it all out at dollarshaveclub.com/jaws. That's dollarshaveclub.com/jaws. We need a shark, Joe. Steven Spielberg was talking to production designer Joe Alves. Steven, we have 3 sharks. No. We need a real one, a real big one. Spielberg was talking about the scene where Amity fishermen are convinced they caught the killer shark, a tiger shark, suspended midair on the pier, jaws propped open. They needed that shark. No problem, Stephen. The local fishermen say these waters are full of big sharks, and they promise to catch one in time. Well, guess what? That time approached, that time came, and that time went. No shark. Time for an emergency call to Florida.
Hello?
Hey, it's Joe Alves. The folks at Universal want to know if you guys have any sharks down there this time of year.
Sure, yeah. Somebody left a dead 9-footer in front of the bar last night.
We'll be right down. Sarasota, Florida. 2 crew members flash a couple $1,000s of Universal's money, and 2 of Florida's finest redneck fish hunters accept the challenge. It's Saturday, and the shark has to be on a hook in Martha's Vineyard on Monday, so there's no time to spare. The guys from the crew anxiously await the shark hunter's return.
Check this out.
Success! Unbelievable! 13 beautiful feet and 750 pounds of dead tiger shark. Hallelujah! He'll spend the night in a freezer locker, and in the morning, he'll be stashed in a crate full of rock salt and ice for the long journey home. Hello, Joe Alves.
Hey, Joe, it's Phil in Universal Travel. Bad news, there's no way we're going to get this shark back in time.
What?
To Martha's.
You can't get the shark back in time. Why?
No airline's going to put the shark on the plane, so...
What do you mean no airline will take him?
None of them. We checked all of them.
That's what he means. Evidently, you can't just check a 15-foot wood crate containing 750 pounds of fast-decomposing shark on American Airlines, even if he's packed with an open case of air fresheners.
It's not going to work. I have to find another way through this.
Okay. We'll send a private plane. Back home in Martha's Vineyard, it's Monday morning and the shark is on his mark and ready for his big screen debut. He's been dead and in transit for 2 days, and he could stand a shower. The sooner this scene ends, the better.
Mecca?
That's for the shark, who's decaying faster than the Walking Dead. A bad case of jet lag and wet rot, wrote screenwriter Carl Gottlieb. It was horror on a hook. Finally, the scene wrapped, and so did the crew's desire for seafood. Summer 1939, Orkney, an archipelago in the Northern Isles of Scotland, just off the north coast of Great Britain. Robert Shaw was 12 when he saw his father lying there on the floor at the foot of his desk. He often found his father like that, on the floor. He reached down to touch his father's skin. It was cold. He had been there for some time. He was dead. On the desk, 2 bottles of bourbon, one empty, one nearly so. On the floor, 2 small medicine bottles. Opium, empty. His father, Thomas Archibald Shaw, was a physician. He had devoted his life to making others well, even as that life spun out of control, extinguished finally in a pool of liquor and drugs and vomit. Young Robert Shaw said nothing. What was there to say? He made no noise. What noise could he make? But that moment, it seared into his memory forever. Maybe it could have been different. Maybe he could have done something. Maybe he could have saved his old man. The guilt would be with him always. It would haunt him to the end of his days. July 1974. Robert Shaw, Quint the grizzled fisherman, was a hellraiser and the largest of personalities. He had good reason to be. On stage and on screen, he was always memorable, his charisma captivating. He was the most celebrated actor in the cast. He had been nominated for an Oscar as King Henry VIII in A Man for All Seasons. He was a playwright and an author. And he was drunk. Not always, but often enough. And mixing liquor into the already flammable blend of entitlement, frustration, sea weariness, and sheer boredom, well, that could lead to an explosion. Shaw was competitive. He could sense your weakness and dig and dig and dig at it until you screamed for mercy. And that's exactly what he did to Richard Dreyfuss. The taunts were merciless, and they always began the same way. Dreyfuss, look at you. You eat and you drink and you're fat and you're sloppy. At your age, it's criminal. Dreyfuss, you couldn't even do 10 good push-ups. Get down and push them out. Come on. Dreyfuss, I'll give you $100 if you climb up to the top of the mast and jump into the water. And then, just as the scene was ready and the cameras were about to roll, Dreyfuss, mind your mannerisms. Mind your mannerisms. Imagine if you were about to step onto a red carpet amid a phalanx of photographers and someone said to you, "What's that in your teeth?" That's how it felt to be Richard Dreyfuss on set with Robert Shaw. Dreyfuss, help me here. Shaw was stepping off the gangplank with a glass of bourbon in his hand. You want me to help you? Yes. Dreyfuss had knocked the glass out of Shaw's hand, and every drinker on the crew cringed. September 1974, Logan Airport, Boston. Principal shooting for Jaws was over. Steven Spielberg had worked every day without leaving Martha's Vineyard for nearly 6 months. His skin was clammy. He was in a cold sweat. Around him, families reuniting, loved ones embracing, students studying, moms and babies, business people at payphones. He wanted to shout. He wanted to scream. How could they act so normal when his entire life, everything he had ever imagined, was falling apart? He was 27, and he was sure his career was over. His first picture was a box office dud, and this one was vastly over schedule and over budget. He would never work again. This was it. So many times, he told himself, this can't be done. It was a stupid idea to begin with. No one is ever going to see this picture. I'm destined to be the failure I always feared I would be. He felt his heart race. He was dizzy, weak. Everything was tingling. He couldn't breathe. His stomach lurched. He could feel his heart burst through his chest. So stupid. So stupid. He wanted to shout. He wanted to scream. February 16, 1975. Universal President Sid Sheinberg has just seen the rough cut of Jaws with its director, Steven Spielberg. It was missing some underwater footage, and it was missing John Williams' famous score. So, Sid, what'd you think? It's okay. Spielberg sat speechless. His head was swimming. And then Sheinberg said something that chilled Spielberg to the bone. You know, if the audience laughs at the shark, we're dead. Well, Stephen, what do you think? February 20, 1975. Famed composer John Williams has just introduced Steven Spielberg to his music for Jaws. It was a 4-note motif, simple and primitive and primal. Its job was to signal the presence of a horrible yet invisible danger. Its job was to project abject terror. But on first listen, it didn't sound that way. Well, Stephen, what do you think? You're kidding, right? Oh no, I am 100% serious. Stephen, this is Jaws. He was 100% serious. And he was 100% right. Who cares if you can't see the shark? It's better, scarier without the shark. The music is the shark. And that music has become one of the most recognizable movie themes of all time. July 1974, Provincetown, Massachusetts. A 13-year-old girl is walking along the beach when she stops, frozen. 3 feet ahead, the badly decomposed body of a young woman. It was a case that would become infamous in the region, the Lady of the Dunes. Her hands were missing, her head partially decapitated, several teeth removed. Her jeans and a blue bandana were folded neatly beneath what was left of her head. This was not the work of some mad shark. She was fit, about 30. Her hair was auburn and tied in a ponytail. Over the years, many amateur and professional sleuths have reconstructed her appearance to help identify her. See, the woman was never reported missing. No one knows who she is, where she comes from, or who murdered her. It remains a mystery. No one had ever seen her before. Or have we all seen her and simply never noticed? June 2016, Exeter, New Hampshire. Jaws has always been the favorite movie of novelist Joe Hill. As a kid, Joe's dad owned 3 Laserdiscs, and he loved them all. One was Steven Spielberg's Duel, another was Jaws. Joe grew up loving Jaws. Joe and his dad, Stephen King. He had seen the movie dozens of times. He could recite every word of dialogue. He was 52 minutes and 2 seconds in. That's when he saw it. In a crowd scene, on the left, she was wearing jeans and a blue bandana, fit, about 30. Her hair was auburn and tied in a ponytail. Martha's Vineyard is a short hop from Provincetown. Shooting was in the summer of '74, right around the time the body was found. When Hollywood comes to town, everybody wants to be an extra. So is it so crazy to imagine that this was her, the Lady of the Dunes, alive? Joe stood close to the screen. This is you, isn't it? Isn't it? Next time, on the final episode of Inside Jaws, a stunning premiere becomes a cultural event as Jaws terrifies a nation. It's not safe to go into the water. From Wondery, this is a 7-part deep dive inspired by the story behind an unforgettable classic movie. This has been part 6 of Inside Jaws. Written and narrated by Mark Ramsey, audio design and production by Jeff Schmidt. Produced by Mark Ramsey Media. Executive producers, Marshall Louis and Hernan Lopez for Wondery. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Wondery.com, or wherever you're listening right now. If you like what you're hearing, we'd love you to give us a 5-star rating and review us, and be sure to tell your friends and show them how to subscribe too. Find a link to subscribe to Inside Jaws and more information on the episode notes. Just tap or swipe over the cover art. You will also see some offers from our sponsors. Please support this show by supporting them. Another way you can support this show is by filling out a small survey at Wondery.com/survey. For more information and to comment on this show, visit our website, Wondery.com/InsideJaws. Tweet us at InsideJaws. Inside Jaws is pleased to have Audible as its presenting sponsor. It's time for our weekly recommendation for your summer hearing pleasure. This week I want to recommend Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Book 1 by J.K. Rowling. Now, I know what you're thinking. I've read that book before, I've even seen the movie. Yeah, I know, me too. But you haven't listened to it yet, have you? In fact, you've never tried an audiobook, have you? And you certainly haven't heard one read by the great English actor Jim Dale. He once played P.T. Barnum on Broadway, and he brings all the ballyhoo he can muster to one of the greatest fantasy books of all time. Look, J.K. Rowling was notoriously rejected by dozens of publishers before someone agreed to publish this book. Don't you reject her too. When you're packing for the big summer vacation, bring along J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, and the amazing Jim Dale. Bring along your Audible. Go to audible.com/Jaws or text Jaws to 500-500 to get started. Amazon Prime members can get Audible for just $4.95 a month for the first 3 months. That's like getting 3 months for the price of one. After that, it's only $14.95 a month. This offer ends July 31st, 2018, so do not wait. Set yourself up now with Audible's unmatched selection of audiobooks. They'll keep you entertained all summer long. That's audible.com/Jaws, AUDIBLE.com/Jaws, or text Jaws to 500-500. You're going to need a bigger boat.